Guys, we just finished an interview with Jason Shurka and we talk all things ETs, UFOs. He is a spokesperson for the TLS, the light system, and has recently just done an interview on Gaia with Emery Smith. So we're really excited to bring this information to our channel. So we really hope you enjoy it. And yeah, let us know your feedback. Hey guys, it's Pete and Roxy here, and today we have the amazing Jason Shurka on our channel, on our show. Welcome, Jason.
Thank you so much for having me.
Jason is an entrepreneur, an author, and also a spokesman for the TLS.
Jason, I think when we explained TLS, because I had to describe it to my mother the other day, and I was thinking, I said to her, you know, think Men in Black, but they're the good guys and they're out there trying to do these things behind the scenes to help humanity. And I was trying to paint the picture for her. And I know that doesn't go all the way in describing TLS. So could you expand on that for me, please, with my limited explanation?
Sure. You can think about it to make it super like simplistic and real so people can relate to something. Think about it like the CIA. In terms of its structure, in terms of there's different ranks, different levels of classification. It's just like that. Only you could think about them as a more secret version of the CIA that's a lot more powerful. So they have physical offices in they have branches and chapters. That's what they call them. So they have an office of their chapter in every major city in the world. They have, you can call them initiated agents of all walks of life, all over the world, not just humans, by the way. There are extraterrestrial, and there is extraterrestrial life that's a part of TLS as well. TLS stands for the light system. That's what the acronym is. And it's a very physical organization. We're not talking, I mean, they have non-physical abilities and technology that many would call supernatural. But we're talking about individuals, human beings, the extraterrestrials who are a part of it are physical. They're not, there is a connection to higher vibrational forms, and if you want to call it. But this is a physical organization, like a secret sort of version of the CIA, a whole lot more powerful, with offices all around the world. The only difference, I would say, between them and the CIA and organizations like the CIA would be their intentions. So their intentions has nothing to do with the we versus you and the I versus you. Their intentions are to help and assist humanity reach a higher level of awareness, a higher level of consciousness, to help us reach a different state of awareness collectively in the world as a whole. So that's really everything that they do has to do with that. It could be there are some like MVPs that we would call them, very, very well-known people in the world who are a part of TLS, and people just don't know that they're a part of TLS. It could be world leaders, it could be authors, it could be producers, celebrities. I mean, really all walks of life, people in the government, and they kind of make things happen behind the scenes, or they make things not happen depending on what's going on and what the ramifications are of something that's happening. So if we're talking about like producers, it could be a certain TV show that they produced with subliminal messages to kind of get you acquainted to certain ideas, to help not do it for us, but to assist the conscious evolution of humanity as a whole. And they do it in ways that are, I mean, I can't even comprehend. It's like, it blows your mind of how they have a finger everywhere. It doesn't make sense, but it's a reality.
Well, you hear the idea that there are people here sort of showing the way and helping other people. So it would make sense that those like-minded people would get together and organize themselves so that they're able to work on different projects around the world. But before we go further into this, people are probably wondering, how the heck did you get involved in this? Find out about it, get to be the spokesman, learn all this information. Like set the scene, right? You're a regular guy, normal. You didn't just one day appear.
I come from a business background. I worked in real estate. That's what I do. It's all I knew. I was interested in the metaphysical and spiritual aspects of life, but it didn't completely like take over. It was just kind of there. I liked reading books about it, and that's it. That's kind of as far as it went. In terms of how it even came into my life in the first place and how it comes into anybody's life, think about it again. Just like in the CIA, there are certain units that you've never heard of and you never will hear of, by the way, until they decide to say, oh, by the way, we're a branch of the CIA. That undercover branch of the CIA, how do you become a part of it? You can't apply. It doesn't work like that. So you're followed for a certain period of time because you meet a certain criteria based on a specific task or operation that they need you for, because you have the ability to do it. And then at some point, they approach you many different ways based on the individual and their threshold and what they can handle and what they can't. And it's kind of like an unfolding process that continues on until you're either initiated or you're not. So just to make it super clear, I'm not initiated into the organization because that was never something that wasn't an opportunity that I was ever faced with yet. I hope to be one day, but truthfully, it doesn't matter. I mean, what's going on today in my life in terms of how I'm sitting in this position now, truthfully, I have no idea. It makes it a little bit more difficult because I don't have a role model to base my actions off of. I don't know how this is going to play out because nobody's done it before on behalf of TLS. So my question was always how, number one, why me? Why? Yeah. Like, who am I? I'm a young guy that comes from a business background. Why? And there were multiple answers to that. One being you were born with something that you'll come to understand. Another one being you'll understand when you read the book Rays of Light, which is a whole other topic. And it all ties back to the Pyramid Code as well, which was a document that they gave me. But to my knowledge, at least to my understanding, I wasn't supposed to be, if you want to call that, supposed to be the person doing this. This opportunity was actually given to a man who didn't want to do it. The same man who wrote the Pyramid Code, the same man who approached me of June of 2018 as a stranger and eventually became somebody very close to me. Today, we talk all the time. For his own reasons, being that he's also a very normal person in the world that's established in his life, an older man that has a family that's known in his world. And he didn't want to come out and start sharing everything that I've been sharing over the past 8 months. Because I guess it would, and he's right, it would completely change his life. A lot of people would think he's crazy. He would get a lot of criticism for it, and he wasn't ready for it, and he didn't want it. And he chose, I emphasize the word chose because there's freedom of choice in everything and every task that's given to you from TLS. He chose not to do it. So back in February of 2020, I was in a meeting that I was invited to. And in that meeting, a lot of incredible things happened. But one thing that came to kind of fruition, manifested in that meeting, was one of the heads of TLS instructed the man who approached me, we're going to call him Ray. Ray is not his real name, but we're going to call him Ray because he wants to remain anonymous. So one of the leaders of TLS instructed Ray to document what is known as the Pyramid Code, which is a document that you can find and read for free and download and share on my website today. But before it was on my website, it was given to me as this, it was told to him to document it. That was in February. I was given the document in June. Not a long document, 44 pages in English, 31 pages in Hebrew. It was originally written in Hebrew because that's his native language. That's what he was kind of taught through. And in June, I'm reading this thing. It's blowing my mind. It's absolutely unbelievable. And I come to understand that this doesn't have to stay confidential. It can go out to the world. So I said, Ray, what are you doing? Put it out. Like, what are you, crazy? You're going to hold this to yourself? And again, he gave the same reasons. Listen, I don't want to do it. I don't want to be the guy that does it. I don't want to be famous for any of these things. I want to live my life. I'm comfortable. I have my family. I have my friends. Let me continue what I'm doing behind the scenes. I'll live this way. When I die, they can publish whatever they want. I'm like, but you got like another 30, 40 years. Like, we're not waiting. We're not waiting. So I was determined to figure out a way, a compromise of some sort to let's get this out. The last thing I thought was that somebody that was approached 2.5, 3 years ago, was going to be the person doing this. That was like the farthest thing it wasn't even in my imagination. He comes to me a few weeks after I'm convincing every day, talking over and over, drilling into his head to just figure out a way to do it. He had his conversations with a few individuals in TLS. He came back and he said, listen, you want to do it? No problem. But you're going to publish it. He originally told me, you're going to publish it as your third book, because I wrote 2 books at that point. You're going to publish it as your third book. And you take my name out of it. Him saying that, you take my name out of it, you make it written by anonymous, you take out everybody else's name with the exception of mine, because I appear in there, and the name of a rabbi who appears in that document. Those are the only names you're going to keep authentic. The rest you're going to change to preserve his anonymity. And that's it. Now I'm sitting there and I said, first of all, I don't want to publish it as my third book because I'm not selling something like that. I'm putting it out. Everybody's getting it. This is information that has to go out to everybody, no matter what. So he said, no problem. You have a point. Do it. Now I'm sitting there not really understanding the significance of what's going on. The significance of what's going on here, for anybody that doesn't understand yet, is really saying that an organization that's been around for over 5,000 years, with technology that we can't even begin to comprehend, with individuals, some of who are over 400, 500, 600 years old, incorporating extraterrestrial life who work with them, with what we would call supernatural abilities, which by the way are really natural depending on the level of awareness that you're in, but supernatural abilities, I would be the first person to speak about them publicly with their permission. And it was kind of a blessing in disguise, but I didn't really think about the magnitude of what was going on when I did it. I think if I did, I probably would have ran away because it's scary and it's a lot and it's a big weight to carry on your shoulders, especially because I didn't know what that weight entailed. Nobody's done it before. That task wasn't fulfilled by anybody before. So I didn't know what I was walking into, but my heart told me to go for it. And with that, if I'm trying to convince Ray to do something and then he tells me to do it and I don't do it, then who the hell am I? You know, so I did it. And all I knew was I had to publish a document, put out the pyramid code, reached every continent on Earth with the exception of Antarctica in 3 hours, and just kept flying and is now translated into 9 different languages. You can download it, read it, share it for free on my website on jasonshurka.com. And that's how all of this started. That's why I'm sitting where I'm sitting today. Now, why, how, who, I have no idea. I don't really care. All I know is there's something really good at play over here. There's an incredible opportunity that was given not just to myself, but to all of us. And if I have the honor and the privilege and the opportunity to be able to be a part of leading something like that, I'm 100% in, no matter what the repercussions are.
Wow.
Well, good on you. It's such a great effort. Thank you for standing up and taking the leap of faith and doing it for yourself and for humanity.
Absolutely.
So we are so fascinated with the UFOs and the beings and galactic worlds, and with your latest broadcast from the TLS around the Operation Water. We'd love to hear a little bit more about that, and if you can share, open that conversation up.
Yeah, so there are 3 extraterrestrial races with whom I know work with TLS. When I say extraterrestrial races, again, a lot of people are under the impression that aliens or extraterrestrials are these non-physical beings that you can't see. I don't know where the hell anybody got that from. Maybe there are beings in forms that are not necessarily physical, but there are most definitely beings that are not terrestrial, that are extraterrestrial, who are physical, who eat, who drink, who go to the bathroom, who have sex, who do everything that we do, only differently because their level of awareness happens to be a little bit, I should say probably a lot a bit higher than ours is here on Earth, collectively speaking. That doesn't mean that there aren't human beings that are at a very high level of awareness today living in physical bodies, but collectively we're not there. So the 3 races that I know of who work with TLS are Tsia, in English Tzia, Nashia, Nashia, and Konom, Konom. By the way, Sia and Nashia are both referred already in the Zohar over 2,000 years ago, a part of the Kabbalah, and in Psalms written by King David and a few others over 2,000 years ago. So this is nothing new. What's new is if you go to somebody religious that has read something like that and they don't necessarily know what they're talking about, they're going to interpret the translation as saying that Sia is a place on Earth, talking about Earth being dry, and it's not. Sia is a different planet that doesn't exist in our Milky Way galaxy. Nashia is a different planet that's not in the Milky Way galaxy. The only one that's, to my knowledge, that's not written about in the Zohar and Psalms is Konom. But all of these three races work in physical means with TLS to whatever extent that may mean. That could mean that they cooperate with one another in operations that need to be done. That could mean Operation Water, which is what you asked me about. Operation Water has to do with helping the extraterrestrial race that is known to live on the planet of Sia. Sia, their average lifespan used to be 360 years old according to Earth time. And I say according to Earth time because time works differently based on where you are and how you experience it, according to your level of awareness. Today, they live an average of about 180 years old according to Earth time. The reason why their average lifespan or life expectancy, if you want to call it, cut in half is because they're experiencing a water shortage for a very long time already, by the way. So their temperature is about 140 to 150 degrees Fahrenheit. It's very dry. They don't have much water whatsoever, and therefore they go to other places to get their water. Now, people ask me if they're so advanced, then why can't they just make water? I don't know. You got to ask them. I'm not one of them. All I can tell you is that they go to other places to get their water. So there are two primary places where they go, one much more so than the other. Their primary place of where they get their water is suspended ice fields in space. And there's many of them, by the way. So they go, I don't know how they do what they do, but they get that water, they condense it, they go back to where they came from, and they create the equivalent of rain from their crafts over the planet to give water to their soil to produce vegetables. They don't have animals and they don't have fruits. They only have vegetables on their planet right now. That also means, by the way, that they're vegans by nature. They don't have a choice, which also is an implication of why their awareness is so high, because you are what you eat, and they're eating very high vibrational foods. Same thing with Nashia, same thing with Konam. They're all vegans. They do not have animals on their planets. Nashia, they only have fruits. Sia, they only have vegetables. Konam, they only have herbs, which they create this concoction. And it's an herb with a high volume of liquid that also acts as their water. So their herbs are like a superfood that gives them water and food. Anyways, back to Sia. So another question that people are probably going to ask after this, or at some point, is why would they travel so far? Now, we're under the impression that leaving the Milky Way galaxy is something that takes a long time. It doesn't when you have technology and a level of awareness that these beings hold. The equivalent time that it takes to travel from Earth to Sia in their crafts and the way that they do it would be the equivalent of about 25 to 30 minutes Earth time. That's like going to the next town over. So it's not far, even though we think it is. The way that they travel with we also think according to the laws of physics. So people are like, it must be heavy. How do they take so much water? Those things don't apply when you exceed and surpass and extend beyond the limitations of the laws of physics that we know today, which, by the way, is also a reflection of our level of awareness, because you see what we thought was impossible 100 years ago, today is possible. And that's going to continue happening based on how our awareness expands and evolves. So they're at a much higher level than we are, awareness-wise and spiritually speaking. So they can do incredible things that we call supernatural, like going 1 trillion light years away in 30 minutes with a lot of water. Now, they also have a technology that they can condense their water. I'm just going to throw numbers right now. I don't know what the levels are, but let's say you take 1 million gallons of water and you condense it to 2 gallons of water. I don't know if that's true. I'm just giving you the principle of how they do it. I don't know what their actual translation of condensation is. Operation Water, the second way that they get their water is there are some lakes here on Earth, one being in Lake George in Australia, that every so often disappears. And if you look at the common mainstream narrative, they don't have an explanation for it. Nobody knows where that water is going. The people of Tsia come here in their crafts. Every so often they take it, but they don't depend on it. They depend on the ice field suspended in space. Every so often that happens. The last time it happened, I think, was in 2011 or something like that. 10 years ago. I'm sorry, 2001. It was 20 years ago, something like that. So Operation Water is where they found a way to, instead of having to go to freshwater reservoirs or ice fields, they can now go to saltwater reservoirs, aka the ocean, take that water and not only convert it into fresh water, but while doing so, they also condense that salt water converting into fresh water into a much smaller amount so they can move easily with it. Again, when they get back to their planet, they go, they make their rain, they give the soil what they need, and they're good. Or at least they're better than they were before.
It's incredible, huh?
Yeah, right. It's unbelievable. So what we're seeing as Operation Water is an ongoing operation where TLS is in cooperation with the people of Tsia. They come, I don't know how often, but very often. And they go into the middle of the ocean somewhere. It's not going to be in your backyard in in Miami on the water. It's going to be somewhere that they're generally not seen. The way TLS would come into play with this one would be if they have to create a distraction so people or the Navy or the military or whatever it is doesn't go there, or at least they lower the probability of individuals going there while they're doing what they're doing. That's what TLS would do, to create diversions while the people of Tsia are doing what they're doing. Not because they're doing something bad, but because, if it can create a lot of problems when people don't understand what's being done over here and why it's being done. Because there's two things that people think automatically. Why would they take our water? They're stealing. That's number one. Number two is, oh my God, they're here. We have to defend ourselves. Now, both of those reactions are coming out of a level of consciousness of saying this is ours. And we have to protect ourselves because we're limited and we live in lack. And that's the way that we live. So that's the way that we think. That's not true. Somebody asked me yesterday, do you think Gaia, as in Mother Earth, agreed to giving away her water? And I explained very clearly, whoever asked that doesn't understand how universal consciousness works. There is no such thing as giving away your water. Gaia doesn't hold like this and say, it's mine, get the hell out of here. That's not how anything at those levels of awareness works. It works in a state of abundance. It works in a level of abundance. And we have exactly what we need, and we're here to help one another. Imagine you had a tumor in your body that was cancerous, and your white blood cells said, no, I'm not going there. Yeah. We're going to save ourselves because we're good. We're not going to go and attack. Right? Imagine you had some sort of sickness and your white blood cells said, no, get out of here. That's in the shoulder. It's not in the knee where we are. Well, it so happens to be the same part of the same body. And that's what these beings understand. That's what we will come to understand, not just through conceptually, but through experience and application as well when we reach these higher states of awareness. So that's what Operation Water is. That does explain, by the way, what you're seeing when you're seeing crafts go underwater. They go underwater because they have a technology called immersion technology. And that immersion technology is exactly what it sounds like. You immerse the craft in water. Sometimes that craft is the size of a football field, the size of 3 football fields, sometimes bigger, sometimes smaller. They go into the water. They have some sort of technology that allows that water to either absorb or suck in. That craft sucks it into some sort of tank. I guess I don't know exactly how it works. It does the conversion. It does the condensing. Then they come out and they leave. And it's as simple as that.
And,
so that would be
places you referred to are UFO hotspots. I did a quick Google research about it all, and people go there to spot lights in the sky. They are reported UFO hotspots. Geologists have gone in there trying to find cracks and fissures in the ground to think that, you know, that's because the one in Chile you mentioned, 1 billion litres reported missing, you know, by the mayor, by government officials, the council going, where did 1 billion litres go?
I don't know. They have no idea.
Yeah, and they're trying to say, oh, it went into another lake, but the other lake's 1,000 feet higher. How did it go up against gravity? You know, none of their explanations made sense. And like even the mayor's going, oh, there's lights in the sky. There's all sorts of strange things going on. And very interestingly, more often than not, when the water drops, it's not very long after that inevitably there's rain or some sort of event and the water comes back, and they like do it in almost harmony with nature, which I found really fascinating. It's like they knew, well, there's about to be big rains. Now's a good time. And, you know, it's not all the things they're trying to explain. You know, they go, oh, it's evaporation. I read one spot where they said that the middle of Lake George here in Australia is 60 meters deep. And for several kilometers, it's 25 meters deep. I mean, that can't evaporate quickly.
It's huge. And you know what's very funny? Generally, when they used to go there, they would use vacuum technology to sort of suck the water into their crafts without actually immersing that craft into water. And when you say that to the common man, people turn their heads and they're like, what are you talking about? How would it suck up water without touching the water? And I'm like, have you ever heard of what a cloud is? Because clouds do that also. And they don't have wires or touch screens or any of that technology that we call technology. Yet they're just these white, fluffy, cotton ball looking things in the sky that form, that literally suck up water from what's under it and then rain it right back onto you. We call that science, but when you tell somebody that there is an extraterrestrial life form with a craft technology that allows them to do just the same thing, it has to be science fiction.
Yeah, that's right. Just because you don't understand how something works doesn't mean that it isn't going on. I mean, if 100 years ago you said that we're going to be able to hold these square things and have a video call from Australia with someone in, you know, New York or LA, they'd go, you're absolutely crazy. That could never happen. You know, absolutely. How's the wires work? You know, well, that's just the level of understanding they were at that time.
100%. Yeah, no, it's fascinating.
What's your take on the sightings from school children in Australia in 1966? There was 250 witnesses, and the children and the teachers all saw this craft. They were asked to draw the craft, report on the craft, and then in 1994, the same shape craft is spotted at a school in Zimbabwe. And like another completely different country, coming up in front of children. This time there were like 64 children who all got interviewed by psychologists, and like, you know, fully they investigated this thing, getting the children to draw it. The same description of the craft, the same feeling of, wow, they're exciting. They're trying to teach us something, warn us about something. What's your feeling on what that craft were like, what species that craft would have been, and why they choose children and the school? I find that really interesting because both cases are really
have no idea. I have no clue. I totally believe it, by the way. I mean, it wouldn't be the first time contact was made. And people are like, when are we going to have first contact? I'm like, you guys, we've had contact for thousands of years. It's like almost saying, like, what do you mean first contact? I don't know. I saw the pictures of those drawings of the kids and what they say. I have no idea. I couldn't tell you. But I'm completely in resonance and alignment with the fact that I would say that probably happened without a doubt. You know what I mean? You have so many witnesses to see something. How can you say it didn't?
Yeah, that's amazing, isn't
But
it?
people do, you know, and that's the world that we live in. So
it's so good too when you get someone with like, there's no agenda, there's nothing in it for anybody to tell these stories, and you see them get interviewed and they're excited, and that wonder of what it might mean to when they realize, like normal people, day-to-day working lives and jobs and whatever, they're not like into this stuff, but they go, I saw it, I had the experience, and wow, it changed me, it expanded me. And it's a shame more people don't go to that excitement and elevate it and wow, this is really cool place, rather than are they coming to get our water or, take our coal?
Yeah, no, again, people will always think through their lens of awareness, even in the way that they would think somebody should help you. For example, they say if aliens are real, why don't they just, or if extraterrestrials are real, why don't they just land their UFO on the front of the White House lawn, And well, maybe because that's the way you think is the right way to do it through your level of awareness doesn't mean that they agree with you from their level of awareness. And the analogy that I always give is look at it like a lake. If you're in a lake that's like a canyon, in a canoe on that lake with a bunch of different twists and turns, you can only see the next turn. So the way you're going to deal with maneuvering through that lake from the perspective of being in the canoe will be very different from the way you would maneuver that canoe if you see it from a bird's eye view, because you see what's coming next, so you know what to do. That would be the best way I can explain why just because we think there's a right way to do something that would make sense doesn't mean it's the right way to do something that would make sense, because the individuals who are disclosing or not disclosing certain things, at least on this side of the equation, they could see a lot more than the common man. They could see things in ways that most human beings can't begin to comprehend. And I'm not saying to blindly trust anybody. I'm just saying to understand that the common collective perspective and level of awareness is limited compared and relative to those who are the beings who we're speaking.
That's not what we do either, is it? Like, you think about us, if we're going to observe a pride of lions or a group of gorillas or something up in the hills, we don't walk into the center of their place and go, we're here. Because if you do, you're going to get attacked, right, by the lions or the gorillas.
There will be a nuclear war.
We look at a distance and we watch that one fighting with that one over a female, or they're warring over territory, or they're fighting over food. And they'll probably look at us, with our warring ways and our ways that, and then they have a baby and, isn't that cute? And they see the beauty and the kindness, but they also see them battling with their level of consciousness. We do that when we observe nature. So it only stands to reason perhaps we're getting observed. They don't want to fly in and land on the White House lawn, because what's going to happen? I mean, inevitably, they're going to shoot it. That's like what we do.
And by the way, they did in 1952. There was an incident of 9 UFOs over the White House. And the first thing we did, they were there. Those 9 unidentified flying objects were there. Nobody understood what the hell was going on. They've never seen things move like that. They didn't attack. They were there. We came and attacked, and they retreated. Now, don't you think that if they had the technology to get here, they have the technology to wipe us out, why wouldn't they attack back when we face them with our military weapons? It goes to show you, well, maybe they're not here to hurt us.
And they sometimes warn us on things like that too. I researched that the one you're talking about. It's actually the biggest deployment during peacetime for the US Air Force ever in that particular case. And the UFOs, whatever these things were toying with the aircraft. Several pilots saw these lights. They were above them, below them, in front of them, like playing around with them. And yet other times they just come in and they just give us a warning. And I refer to the well-documented and video footage cases of the triangular shaped craft over the Kremlin, and then similarly the same triangular shaped craft over the Pentagon, and all these people going, why didn't they scramble the ship? Like, they stayed there for hours, 3 to 5 hours floating there. Why didn't they scramble the planes? Why didn't they fire anything? And it could be that they just didn't make themselves visible, because the people, the footage is there, and there's lots of footage from different people who don't know one another. And it could be this time they just decided to stay cloaked but be visible and not show up on the radar, or the TLS or whoever it is in the government know what's going on, because at that time there was nuclear maneuvers going on, and it was like the Galactic Federation ships are supposedly triangular shape. The Galactic Federation ships were going, hey guys, moving around these nuclear weapons, if you guys aren't careful, you want to go through another, whatever it is, 30,000 year cycle, right?
It's so amazing to see how all of these things work, and they're happening. And right now, with the whole disclosure thing that's about to happen, let's see. I don't have faith in them. I think they're going to do something terrible, personally, just like they have been. They're priming us and they're preparing us for a nuclear threat. Just the other day on Fox News, Tucker Carlson and a few others that he brought on who are supposed to be experts from the Pentagon, are telling us that this is a threat to national security, and they have the potential to drop a warhead, a nuclear warhead, a nuclear bomb, over the White House, over the nation's capital, they called it, Washington, D.C., in a matter of seconds. And we have to be careful. I mean, why the hell would that, why do you know, there's no words. It's,
If they
let's
really
see.
wanted that, right, they would have done it already.
Yeah. It's like, let's see where it takes. Let's see what people decide to believe. At the end of the day, it's our freedom of choice. What do we want to believe? What do we want to not believe? And if honestly, it wouldn't surprise me if the majority of humanity really thought that we were under a nuclear war threat by extraterrestrial life, because look how much they believed already. And the question is, how much crap do we have to eat until we realize that we're eating crap? That's how it's going to go down. Until people realize what's already in front of them, we're going to keep going in circles. And the surface, the way that the topic surfaces will change. So in regards to like the really atrocious side of the low level of humanity's potential, we had slavery. That wasn't enough. We had the Holocaust. That wasn't enough. Look what's happening today. You know, still segregation, discrimination. The CDC practically wrote how to run a concentration camp in different words, you know, of how you separate people according to their religion and their status, and this person goes here and this person goes here. And it's like everything is repeating itself. History is repeating itself, and it will continue repeating itself until we decide to learn the lessons. And I think when it comes to extraterrestrial life and this whole disclosure that I do believe we're about to go through, we have to use discernment and be very, very aware of what is going on here. You know, who's telling us what? What are their vested interests? Does it really make sense that the individuals who make billions and trillions of dollars from a specific industry like gas and oil and even electricity would promote something that would make their industry fall down to the ground in 1 second? You know, if those crafts and that technology comes out to the public, you know how many people in power lose not billions, trillions of dollars. Mm-hmm. Right now, we're talking about these electric cars, the way of the future. That's going to be the way of the past before it even happened, if these crafts come out, publicly speaking, on the collective level. And those guys won't go down without a war. So before starting a war, it's always easier to deceive people, to keep them away so we don't even get to that point in the first place. And they may succeed in the beginning. There will come a point where it all ends and we will reach our destiny. The question really is, what's going to happen along the way? How many people are going to have to get hurt along the way? And how many people are going to die? We're already seeing it. You know, how many of us have to get hurt before we decide to see what's always been in front of us?
Yeah. Well, with the level of awareness around the globe at the moment, everyone moving from that 3D to 4D to 5D consciousness, the key really is working on yourself, raising your frequency, your awareness. And by this disclosure coming, it really is evident that more and more people are waking up, which is wonderful to see. And, you know, slowly but surely we'll move from, you know, separation into the unity, which is love consciousness. And that's a beautiful thing. And well, thank you so much for coming on today. I think we could probably keep talking forever. So
we could do this again at any point, whenever you guys would like.
Thank you, Jason, so much for coming on today. We love you. Such a brave and courageous soul. Thank you so much for all the work that you're doing for yourself and the consciousness and your brothers and sisters on the planet. And yeah, from our heart to your heart, thank you so much.
Thank you both very much. And yeah, until we do this again, I had a great time.
Yeah, awesome.